I thought it was just a passing glance. A moment too quiet. But then his hand brushed mine, and I didn't pull away. What happened next? I wish I could forget. But in that silence, something irreversible began. And it wasn't just a kiss. I never thought I'd say this out loud, let alone to strangers on the internet. But I need to get it out, because the silence is eating me alive. It didn't happen in a dramatic way. No lightning strike, no fight, no breakdown, just a moment, a single moment in the hallway. A touch, a pause, and I didn't pull away. I'm not proud of what I did. I'm not even sure I fully understand it. All I know is that I had spent so long feeling invisible. Like a shadow moving through my own life. And then suddenly, someone saw me. That someone was Tyler. Yes, that Tyler, my husband's son, my stepson, 20 years old, quiet, polite, thoughtful in a way his father never was. When he moved in, I thought we'd keep our distance. I didn't try to be a mother to him. He didn't ask me to be one. We coexisted. We passed each other in the kitchen. We exchanged short sentences and longer silences. But something shifted. I don't know when it started. I just know the moment it became real. That hallway, that brush of his hand, the way neither of us stepped back. There are some lines you think you'll never cross, until you're standing right on them, and choose not to move. This is that story. I used to tell myself I had a good life. A safe marriage, a clean apartment, bills paid on time, nothing dramatic, nothing wild, just stable, predictable. Daniel, my husband, is a practical man, always on the move, always working. He provides, sure, but he's emotionally unavailable. I don't even think he realizes it. He thinks saying, "How was your day?" while scrolling his phone counts as connection. It doesn't. I sleep in the same bed as him every night, and still feel like I'm living alone. No laughter, no tension, just silence. Not peaceful silence, but the kind that wraps around you and makes you question if you even exist to the person next to you. I used to try. I cooked his favorite meals, left little notes in his suitcase, planned weekends away. He forgot one of our anniversaries. Didn't even notice the lingerie I wore one night. I stood in the doorway while he brushed his teeth, and he didn't even look up. Eventually, I stopped trying. That's when the loneliness got louder. It's strange. You can be surrounded by furniture, a TV humming in the background, even the low buzz of city traffic outside, and still feel like you're dissolving. Like your life has become invisible ink. I didn't want to cheat. I didn't even want attention. I just wanted to feel alive again. Warm, noticed. But Daniel was never home long enough to notice anything. Then Tyler moved in. And somehow, with just one look, I felt like someone finally saw me again. Tyler moved in at the start of spring. Daniel barely mentioned it, just said his son needed a place to stay while sorting things out with college and his mom. I didn't object. I didn't know him well. He was always the quiet one. Rarely came around during holidays. Barely looked me in the eye at family dinners. So when he showed up with just a duffel bag and a tired smile, I kept my distance. I gave him the spare room, fresh towels, and space. That was all either of us expected from the arrangement. The first few days were polite, distant. He thanked me for dinner. I asked if he needed anything. Short phrases, quiet footsteps, headphones in. We were two ghosts floating through the same apartment. But then, something shifted. He started helping without being asked, setting the table, carrying groceries, taking out the trash, not in a performative way. Just, quietly, consistently, like he noticed the things no one else did. One evening, I came home exhausted. My back ached. I found the dishes already washed. A cup of chamomile tea waiting on the counter. No note, just the cup. I looked at him. He shrugged. "You looked tired yesterday." That moment stuck with me. After that, I started noticing more. The way he lingered when we talked. The way he listened, not just to my words, but to the pauses between them. The way his eyes softened when I smiled. He never crossed a line. Not then. Neither did I. But something unspoken began to bloom between us. It wasn't lust, not at first. It was recognition. Like two people who had been invisible for too long, finally seeing each other. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. The kind where everything feels a little too still. Daniel had left for a last-minute business trip that morning. Tyler and I were the only ones home. I spent most of the day cleaning, rearranging the pantry, doing anything to keep my mind busy. The silence was thick. No TV, no music, just the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of the wood floors. At some point, I heard the shower turn off. Tyler's door creaked open. I stayed in the kitchen, pretending to look for something in the cabinet, just to feel normal. Then I stepped out to the hallway, right as he stepped out of the bathroom. We both froze. He was in a towel, hair damp, water still beating down his neck. And I wasn't expecting to see him like that. I looked away immediately, but not fast enough to erase the split second our eyes locked. Sorry, I mumbled, stepping aside. He didn't say anything, just gave a soft, surprised smile and nodded before moving past me. But in that tiny moment, in the space between his body brushing by mine and my breath catching, I felt it. Awareness. Not guilt, not yet, just heat, charged air, something shifting in the room, like gravity bending just slightly off-center. I leaned against the hallway wall, waiting for the flush in my cheeks to fade, but it didn't. Later that day, I passed him again, this time in the living room. Our arms brushed, a second too long, a hesitation too obvious. Still, we didn't speak of it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed the hallway moment over and over. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was nothing, and yet everything. It was the first time in years someone had made me feel something real, with just a look. The moment we crossed the line didn't come with warning. No dramatic build-up, no loud confessions, just a moment that stretched too long and didn't end where it should have. It was Monday evening. Daniel had texted that he'd be staying out another night. Tyler and I had dinner quietly, takeout. Barely any conversation. I could feel the silence between us thickening. Not the awkward kind, the loaded kind, like both of us knew something was shifting. And neither of us had the courage to say it out loud. After dinner, I turned off the kitchen lights and walked down the hallway. He was behind me, returning to his room. As I turned the corner, I paused to adjust the thermostat on the wall. That's when it happened. He reached past me, just slightly, to press the button for the fan. His hand grazed mine. I didn't move. He didn't either. The hallway was dim, quiet, too quiet. I turned my head slowly, expecting him to look away. He didn't. Our faces were inches apart. His breath brushed my cheek. His eyes searched mine, not demanding, not forceful, just asking. And I let him. I didn't step back. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. And then, like we were caught in something bigger than ourselves, his lips found mine. Soft, hesitant, fragile. I should have stopped it, I know that. But in that moment, it felt like standing under warm rain after years of drought. When he pulled back, I couldn't speak. My hands trembled, my chest ached with a feeling I couldn't name. He whispered, "I'm sorry." I shook my head slowly. "No, you're not." Neither was I. Because once you've tasted the feeling of being wanted again, you realize how starved you really were. The kiss didn't end everything. It began something. After that hallway moment, nothing between us looked the same. Every shared glance became heavier. Every silence more loaded. We didn't speak about it. We didn't touch again for 2 days. But the air between us? It changed. It burned. I found myself waiting for his footsteps. Listening for the sound of him moving through the apartment. Watching the hallway. Wondering if he was thinking about it too. Then, one night, it happened again. I couldn't sleep. I went to the kitchen for tea. The lights were low. The hum of the fridge the only sound. I didn't hear him come in. I just felt him, his presence. That tension, right behind me. I turned, and he was there, shirtless, eyes dark with something he wasn't sure he had permission to feel. But I didn't move away. Again. His hand brushed mine as I set down the mug. And then, slowly, he reached up, fingers light against my jaw. A question in his eyes. I nodded. The second kiss was different. Less hesitant, warmer, deeper. His hands didn't stay still. One found my waist, the other pressed gently against my back. My body responded before my mind could object. My fingers tangled in his hair, pulled him closer. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel numb. I felt alive. I felt wanted, desired, not in a selfish way, but in a way that made me remember I was still a woman. That I wasn't just a title, wife, stepmother, housekeeper, but a body, a heart, a person. But along with that warmth came the cold rush of shame. In the seconds between kisses, I asked myself, what are you doing? And then his lips returned to mine, and the question faded. Desire silenced the guilt, for now. I don't know how long it lasted. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. Time twisted itself into a blur of skin and breath and the ache of everything we weren't supposed to be. When it ended, we didn't speak. He just looked at me like I was someone worth seeing. And I looked at him like he had just ruined and saved me. The next morning, everything felt different. The apartment looked the same. The coffee maker still clicked on at 7 o'clock. The sun still spilled across the hardwood floors. But something in the air had shifted, subtle, but undeniable. I avoided the kitchen. I couldn't bear the thought of seeing him. Not yet. I stayed in the bedroom longer than usual, pretending to scroll through emails. Though I wasn't reading a thing. My hands were cold, my heart heavy. What had I done? It wasn't just the physical part. It was the wanting, the letting. I let something happen that I couldn't take back. And worst of all, I didn't feel regret the way I was supposed to. I felt guilt, shame, but also warmth, a terrifying comfort, like some part of me had finally exhaled after being held underwater for too long. Around 10 o'clock, I tiptoed to the kitchen. Tyler was there, already dressed, rinsing a glass. He didn't look surprised to see me, but he didn't smile either. Morning, he said softly. Morning, I echoed. And that was it. We didn't talk about what happened. We didn't talk at all beyond basic politeness. But the silence was thick, almost unbearable. Every time I walked past him, I could feel the echo of his hands on my skin. Every time he looked at me, I saw the question he wasn't asking. Are we going to pretend that never happened? I wasn't ready to answer. I didn't even know what the answer was. My thoughts were tangled between this can't happen again and but what if it already did. Later that day, I stood in the bathroom staring at myself in the mirror. Same woman, same tired eyes. But everything had changed. And no amount of cold water on my face could wash that away. I told myself it had to stop. That what happened was a moment of weakness, a lapse in judgment, a byproduct of loneliness and neglect. I even rehearsed the words I'd say to him if it ever came up again. It was a mistake. We can't. I'm your stepmother. But I never said them. Because deep down, I wasn't sure I believed them. Every time I saw Tyler, passing in the hallway, sitting quietly on the couch, reaching for a glass in the kitchen, my resolve cracked just a little more. He didn't push. He didn't even bring it up. But there was a knowing in his eyes. Not pressure, just presence. And presence is dangerous when you've been invisible for too long. I started noticing how often I checked my reflection before leaving the bedroom. How I lingered when I knew he was in the living room. How the space between us always seemed to close just enough to feel like it could happen again. And I hated myself for wanting it. Because wanting him meant betraying a part of myself I didn't even know still existed. The loyal wife, the responsible adult, the woman who always did the right thing, even when no one noticed. But here's the truth I don't like admitting. I didn't want to do the right thing anymore. I wanted to feel something. Anything. To be seen. To be touched with care. With intention. To matter. And somehow, Tyler, this young man who wasn't supposed to mean anything more than my husband's son, had become the only person who made me feel alive. I was drowning in the weight of right and wrong. But in the moments he looked at me like I wasn't broken. I wanted to forget what side I was supposed to be on. Was it love? Was it lust? Was it trauma? I didn't know. All I knew was, I didn't want it to end. Not yet. The days that followed felt like walking through fog. Tyler and I didn't touch again. Not physically, but the emotional thread between us remained tight. Invisible. Impossible to untangle. Every look, every moment alone in a room together, carried the weight of everything unspoken. Daniel came home 3 days later. He kissed my cheek like nothing had changed, unpacked his suitcase, complained about traffic, ate the reheated leftovers I'd made. Routine resumed, almost. But I felt his eyes linger longer than usual. He asked more questions, innocent ones. On the surface, how's Tyler adjusting? Did anything happen while I was gone? I lied smoothly, too smoothly. One evening, I walked into the living room and found him standing in the corner, adjusting the angle of a small device mounted high above the bookshelf. What's that? I asked. Home security camera, he said flatly, just in case. My heart skipped. He never looked at me when he said it, just continued adjusting the lens, then walked away. From that day on, something in him shifted. He watched more than he spoke. He stayed home more. He seemed observant. But he never confronted me. He never accused. That silence was louder than any screaming match could have been. I don't know if he saw anything. I don't know what he suspects. But I do know this, he knows something. I started waking up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, not because I was afraid of being caught, but because I wasn't sure if I even wanted to be saved. Something inside me had unraveled, and no matter how carefully I played the part of the wife, I could feel that version of me slipping further away each day. And in the space she left behind, I didn't know who I was becoming. Sometimes, I wonder if things could have turned out differently. If I had pulled away that night in the hallway, if I had shut the door, if I had reminded myself who I was supposed to be. But I didn't. And now, I can't unfeel what I felt. I can't untouch what's been touched. The shame is real, but so is the memory of feeling alive. And that's what haunts me most. Tyler eventually moved out, quietly, no dramatic goodbye, no closure, just a short hug at the doorway, and a soft, "Take care." Daniel never brought it up. Maybe he didn't want to know. Maybe he already did. We sleep in the same bed, say the same things, eat dinner like nothing's changed. But I know something inside him has shifted, and something inside me is gone. I don't recognize the woman I used to be. The one who waited up for a husband who never came. The one who whispered, "I'm fine," when she wasn't. She doesn't live here anymore. In her place is someone lonelier, but also, somehow, more awake. And that's where I'm stuck. Not in love, not in regret. Just stuck between two truths that can't coexist. I crossed a line. And I didn't stop. And if I'm honest, I'm not sure I would, even now. So tell me, if you were me, starving for connection, invisible in your own life, would you have pulled your hand away? Or would you have let it happen too?